Hill. Lawmakers are anticipating bombshell testimony today in the impeachment inquiry. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman arrived on Capitol Hill moments ago, about an hour now. He is the White House's top national security expert on Ukraine. Vindman will be the first witness to testify who was on the July 25th phone call between President Trump and Ukraine's president.
In a prepared statement ahead of his testimony, Vindman says that he was concerned by that call, and he told his superiors twice that military aid was being improperly tied to politics. Meanwhile, today's hearing comes 2 days before House Speaker Nancy Pelosi plans to hold the first formal vote on the impeachment inquiry. CBS News Chief Congressional correspondent Nancy Cordes is following all of this.
Alexander Vindman is an Iraq War veteran who oversees Ukraine policy at the National Security Council. He'll tell congressional investigators today that he grew concerned after listening in on the president's July phone call. "I did not think it was proper to demand that a foreign government investigate a U.S. citizen. The request to investigate Biden and his son had nothing to do with national security," he says, adding that he warned NSC's lead counsel that such a partisan play would undoubtedly result in Ukraine losing the bipartisan support it has thus far maintained. This would all undermine U.S. national security.
There was no anything. There was no pressure put on him, no anything.
The president continues to deny that he withheld military aid and a coveted meeting in an attempt to extract those promises. But the evidence to the contrary is piling up. House Democrats will introduce a resolution this week laying out procedures for public hearings and outlining due process rights for the president and his counsel.
The resolution will set forth procedures that the committee will use.
But Republicans who had pushed for such a vote slammed the decision.
I strongly oppose any attempt to legitimize this Soviet-style impeachment process.
And the White House says it may not cooperate, even if the resolution passes.
It just proves our point that this was illegitimate and ill-conceived from the beginning.
So Nancy Cordes is joining us now from Capitol Hill. Nancy, tell us about Alexander Vindman and what he is expected to tell congressional investigators. We have his prepared statement now, so we have a sense of where this is going.
Right. So he is a very interesting figure. He is a Ukrainian-American immigrant, came to the U.S. when he was 3 years old, Harvard-educated, military veteran, decorated combat veteran, served in Iraq, and worked his way up to the National Security Council, where he oversaw Ukraine policy. And so he was in a very unique position to witness and understand this phone call as it happened in real time back in July. He's the first individual to testify who was actually listening in on that phone call between President Trump and the president of Ukraine. And even though he still works in the White House, he makes no bones in his opening statement about the fact that he believed that the president's remarks to the president of Ukraine were improper. I'll just go ahead and read to you what he says in his prepared opening statement. He says, "I was concerned by the call. I did not think it was proper to demand that a foreign government investigate a U.S. citizen, and I was worried about the implications for the U.S. government's support of Ukraine. I realized that if Ukraine pursued an investigation into the Bidens and Burisma, that's the company that employed Hunter Biden, Vice President Joe Biden's son, that it would likely be interpreted as a partisan play, which would undoubtedly result in Ukraine losing the bipartisan support it has thus far maintained. This would all undermine U.S. national security. Following the call, I again reported my concerns to the NSC's lead counsel." So here you have a current White House official not only denying the president's claim that this call was perfect and innocent, but saying that he was so concerned about what it could do to U.S. national security interests that he went to the top lawyer at the National Security Council to warn him about it.